Hey everybody, this is Mike Miller and welcome to the Strike Up the Band podcast. Today on the show we have Christopher Ward. Christopher is the director of the Five Lakes Silver Band from Michigan, and that band just won the NABBA Grand Championship down in Alabama I believe it was last weekend. So Christopher, thank you so much for taking time to be with me today.
Yeah, it's great to be with you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing well. Um, like I ask everybody else that I've had on this show, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in music?
Sure. I was born in England into a Salvation Army family, and my parents moved to America in 1980 when I was two, and fourth generation bandsman in the Salvation Army. And so I grew up in the Army and Army banding. I learned how to play there. When we moved to Long Island, um, New York in 1986 from Yonkers, and I went to a big what we call corps, which is a church in the Salvation Army in Hempstead, New York. They had a rich tradition with the band there, so full band and youth band and beginner band and all that kind of stuff. And there were some really big names there at the time. Derek Smith, who's the father of Philip Smith, who played principal trumpet in the New York Philharmonic for decades. His father was a bandmaster there. Thomas Mack, who's used to be a euphonium soloist with the New York Stat Band and as a composer. And my own father, growing up in his house, Gordon Ward, we were surrounded by music every day. So me and my siblings all played cornets. The other three eventually went on to tenor horn, and I stayed on cornet, which is what my father plays. My grandfather was a B flat bass player, and my great grandfather was a B flat bass player. So my dad kind of broke the mold with the low brass and went to high brass, and that was it. So my upbringing, I was always around it. My father was the soprano player in the New York Staff Band when I was a kid growing up, and then he went on to principal cornet. And I got in the staff band when I was 16, my senior year of high school. So I worked my schedule so I could get to rehearsals. It was Wednesday afternoons, and it was about an hour from where my school was, my high school. So, and I was in that band for 23 years. The last 11 as the soprano cornet, E flat soprano in the band. And then we moved to Michigan in 2018. There was a job opportunity. I worked for the Salvation Army in New York as an assistant music director for their programs for about 18 years or so. And then we moved to Michigan, and I have the job as a senior director of music and gospel arts here in Michigan for the Salvation Army. And there was a friend of mine whose father played tuba in the Five Lakes Silver Band, and knew we were moving out, and he said, we'd love to get some help on the solo cornet row. We're about to go to NABBA. I know you're moving here, so I got an email from their personnel manager, Jeff Markwick, and asked if I'd play. And I looked at my schedule, and it seemed like it would work out. So it's nice going into an area where you don't know many people, but you've already been invited into a band, and it's like there's something that feels normal, is going to a rehearsal and playing. So I did that NABBA with them in 2018, and they asked if I would stay on the next season, and I said, yeah, as long as my work schedule will allow it. That has to come first, and so I did as much as I could with them. And towards the end of that season, which was spring of 2019, they asked if I would be interested in taking over the band. And I said, yeah, I'd be interested. I have some questions for the board as to where you want to go. What do you want to be as a band? That kind of thing to sort of figure out if this was the right fit, and yeah, they basically went along with everything I was after, and that was it. So I took over in July of 2019. So
Did you have experience conducting before then?
yeah, I did about 20 years or so of conducting before we moved here, in various ensembles, all brass band stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, another one of my guests, do you know Joe Colley or
Yeah. Yeah. No,
okay.
Joel.
Yeah, he's also a product of the Salvation Army band system. Sounds like that's a
Yeah.
good way to learn music. I mean, when you were in high school, were you in like your high school band or just the Army band?
I was. Yeah, I played in school bands. You had to do marching band, and I wasn't a big fan of marching band, so I actually played football a couple of years to avoid marching band. But I played in the concert band and the jazz band a bit, and occasionally with the orchestra and stuff. So yeah, I did all that in school. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so where did you end up going to college?
I went to Manus in Manhattan and studied the first couple of years with Chris Gecker, who's a fantastic trumpet player, and an even better teacher. He really knew how to relate, or knows. I'm sure he's still doing it. Knows how to relate to his students. Sort of finds out what you're into, and he uses great analogies in his teaching. And he knew I was really into sports, and he's very athletic. He would frequently work out, and he was a boxer and all that kind of stuff. So we talked a lot about that. He was really really good. And then the next couple of years, I was with Vince Penzarella, who's Phil Smith's right hand man in the New York Philharmonic there for decades, and another incredible teacher. Um, and then I went to SUNY Purchase State University in Westchester, and was still with Vince Penzarella while I was there. And then I studied with Graham Ashton for a couple of years as well, who's the head of brass there. Graham used to play in Philip Jones Ensemble. He's an Englishman who had been in Australia and then moved over to New York. So, yeah, so those are the two universities. While I was in school, I was able to continue to play in the New York Stat Band, which was about a half hour from my school when I was at SUNY Purchase, and that was really good. So I was in, I want to say, four brass bands while I was at university, and all the university orchestra, brass quintet, brass ensemble. So yeah, the trumpet or cornet was never off my face at that point.
So it sounds like you basically got brass band in your blood.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
wow, that's great. So tell us about the Five Lakes band. I was looking on the website. Looks like they were started around 2006. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's right. Um, and a gentleman by the name of Neil Barlow, who now lives in Canada, has another band up there. He was conducting the band the first number of years, and they initially started as a band. There was a group of guys that wanted to start a professional brass band in the area, and the idea was that everyone would get paid. And it sort of didn't really work. It didn't pan out the way they thought it would. They weren't sort of bringing in the money for that kind of thing. And then it sort of changed to more of a traditional brass band where it's all volunteer, amateur, technically, even though you have some professionally trained people in the group. Um, and so they were doing concerts in and around the Detroit area, and then eventually decided to go to NABBA and compete. Um, and So they went a few times, and they went to the Hannaford Cup up in Toronto, which is a brass band festival. And you play a program, and part of your program is that there's a march, and the march is judged. So they do the Hannaford Cup for the best march kind of thing, and they've won that a couple of times, and then went to NABBA in the first section. And in 2013, I believe, is when they won the first section. And there was kind of a divide in the band. Then you get to a crossroads at that point. Do we go up to championship, or do we stay in the first section? You know, and there was sort of a divide in the group, and they ended up going up. And the next year, went to the championship section, and then came back down the following year, um, and back to the first section. And so they went through a series of conductors, Neil was the one that worked with them for a number of years and got them that first championship at NABBA in the first section. And then he left. They had a series of different conductors, orchestral guys, concert band guys, school, music director kind of thing, and some ups and downs in the group and personnel wise, and it wasn't sort of happening the way a couple of the original guys envisioned. And so they approached me about taking it over in 2019. We had just sort of come near the bottom of the first section that year at NABBA and in Dublin Festival of Brass. And there was a bit of, some undercurrents in the band and some people not happy where it's going, and others didn't want to do competing. And there was a bit of indecisiveness amongst the members. And so when they asked me, like I said before, I needed to speak to the board about what they want to be, because I have an idea of what a brass band should be and how to create a successful band, whether it be with the sound of the band, the way the band plays, or how the band is run and operated. And so I had a series of questions for the board, and everything I asked, they or said that, I think it needs to go this way if we're going to do it. I said, but if you don't want to be this, and you want to be a decent community band and that kind of thing, that's fine. There's a lot of those around, and a lot of people enjoy playing in those types of groups, and it can be very beneficial in the community. I said, that's fine. I don't think I'm your guy if that's the case, but if you want to get this going in the direction I see we need to, and build it the way I think is the right way, in terms of the playing and the personnel and getting everyone bought in on, we're heading in a certain direction with the band. This is how we're going to play. This is what we're trying to achieve. This is how we're going to do it. Then, and take everything you do as seriously as possible. Every event, it was what we say, every event's the most important thing you've ever done. The next one needs to be better than the last. That's always our goal, whether it's a concert at a local library, in a park, or on a contest stage somewhere. And so we did, and we had some auditions. I said I need to hear everybody in the group and know what we have. And so everyone was encouraged to come in and play for me, and I had a panel of guys with me, to help with that process. And we opened it up to some other folks in the area. And so we had quite a number of people show up to audition for the band. And it gave me an opportunity, one, to hear what we have in the band already, and some other folks in the area that I may not have been familiar with. And also to take time one-on-one with people to explain what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be doing it, and why. And just to say, ask them if they're okay with that, because we want to make sure we have a good fit with every person in the group. And I'd said one of the things I stressed in the beginning was culture is the most important thing, building a good culture in the band. I already have my ideas about the playing and how we're going to do that. But if you have to get the culture right, then you've got people bought in, and you can achieve so much more musically. And so that was it. And the big point that was stressed with all the individuals was, the individual egos need to be checked at the door, the rehearsal room door. We come in, and we're always going to do what's best for the band. And it has to be everybody's approach, myself included. It's not my group, it's our group, and that seemed to work really well. So we did that in the summer of 2019, and we got going later that summer, end of August into September. And it was going quite well. And we went through a series of concerts that fall, and then we started our preparation for the Dublin Festival of Brass and NABBA in January 2020. And in early March, that's when everything got shut down, and we weren't able to do anything. So yeah, we had to hit the pause button like the rest of the world, which was very frustrating because we were building some good momentum. And yeah, and so then we did a few of those online videos like everybody else. And the Brady Bunch videos, everyone in the boxes and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I edited quite a few of those back during that time. It was it was actually kind of fun to learn how to do that, but not as much fun as playing together.
Yeah, so we did a few of those videos. Our first one we did the Beatles. I'm trying to remember what it was now. This is so long ago. But we did a Beatles track that was arranged by a real good friend of mine, Dorothy Gates, who's a music editor for the Salvation Army out east, and she does a lot of writing. She's very good. And so we did that, and I think it was All You Need Is Love. And that one was when I'm 64. It was when I'm 64, I think. So that one took off. I mean, we got like 24,000 views or something on Facebook on that one. So everyone was kind of excited, and we did a couple more, and then it started to get old, as I'm sure it did for everyone, you know. And we found this beautiful amphitheater in Lake Orion here in Michigan, not too far from where we rehearse, and beautiful outdoor stage. Um, Really nice picturesque setting with all the trees, and there's a big green hill that's sort of like, you know, theater style, facing the stage. It comes down into the stage, you know, without the seats, you know. So um, we asked them if we could start rehearsing there outside, and we did we put all those protocols in place and spread everyone apart, and everyone had to wear masks until you're in your seat and that kind of thing, even though we're outside. So we did all that because it was August 2020, and we thought we need to get the band together and do whatever we can. So we threw it out to everyone in the band and said, if anyone's uncomfortable with this, you can step out for now, and your place will be held for a year. We can reevaluate a year from now, but we feel it's important that we get everyone back together. And the majority of people did show up. And what a feeling to just start playing music together, even spread out, even, you know, wearing masks and stuff. We were so excited to be together. Um, and so as some of the, you know, the protocols were up and down from the state, you know, and every state was different. And in Michigan, you were allowed to have, I think it was 100 people at an outdoor gathering or something. It was at the end of August, in September. So we did a concert, and we said, you know, only 100 people can come. It's the first 100 that show up, kind of thing. And they're all spread out on this hill. And it was the most incredible feeling for us to play a concert again. Um, and so we were able to do a couple of those, and we rehearsed at that outdoor venue till like the end of October, and then it was just way too cold to be outside.
Yeah, you are in Michigan.
Right. Um, and then we did a series of recordings, live recordings, at the Salvation Army in Royal Oak, Michigan, which is where I go to church, and they let us use the chapel, and so we spread out and we had the playing masks on and no audience because we were inside, and so we recorded 5 or 6 pieces like it was a live concert type thing, and then posted them individually over December. A few of them were Christmas ones we did towards the end, um, and then some other things, some other regular, you know, band items, Enter the Galaxies and things that we would play in a concert. And that was really popular. It was really good for the band to have these sort of projects and things to work towards. It was so important. And we were getting messages from all over the world, like, how the heck are you guys doing this? Like, none of us can even get together, you know. So we feel very fortunate that we were able to do that sort of thing, and we were very determined to get back together and start building the momentum again as a band. So, you know, but everybody had that 2020 year to deal with where you couldn't do much. So we did as much as we could, and then turned into 21. And you know, there's other variants of this thing that came out, and that was when the vaccines were starting to go out, and it was all, some people want to do stuff, some people don't. And so we paused for a few months. Then NABBA got canceled again, and that was kind of deflating for everyone. But we got right back at it in the spring of 21, and then we were invited down to the Great American Brass Band Festival in Kentucky, which was great because we had, again, something to work towards. So we did a concert at that amphitheater here again in June, and then we went down to Kentucky as a band. which was a lot of fun for us. And we've been together ever since. There's been some personnel changes over the time. I would say in 2020, certainly a few. In 2021, a few. Um, and then a couple this past season. But we've been very fortunate. There's sort of a buzz in the area about the band, and people like what we're doing and how we're doing it. And so there's been a number of really fine players that wanted to play in the group, um, and that more importantly have bought into what we're all about. With the culture we've created and the way we do things. And yeah, so that's a bit of the history since I've been there. We've branched out and done joint concerts with a few other bands. Old Crown is a band in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They We've done a concert down there with them and a concert up here in Michigan with them, which is good to get together with other like-minded people and encourage another band. Um, and then so we our first competition that we were allowed to do was the Dublin Festival of Brass in Dublin, Ohio. That's hosted by the Dublin community bands there. Um,
Okay. I've seen your video from that. I assumed it was in Ireland. So,
Most people do, yeah, yeah. So it's actually just about 3.5 hours down the road for us.
okay.
So we went to that in 2022, and we won that competition, and then the area was asked to host the U.S. Open. It was moving from Kansas City. They were looking for a new location, um, and so it's sort of a collective group from different bands in Michigan and Ohio got together to form a committee, the Great Lakes Brass Band Association, to host the U.S. Open in Michigan in November. So that was the first time Five Lakes Silver Band was able to participate um, in the U.S. Open. They hadn't been before, and so we won the championship section in that in November, which was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun having it in our backyard as well, which was kind of cool. Um, and then we went back to the Dublin Festival in just this past March, and were able to repeat as champions for that. And the big thing was the questions of so last year at NABBA we were in the first section and we came second. Dallas Brass Band won the first section and they played extremely well. I mean, it was almost flawless. I don't think I remember any chips or splits or anything in their whole performance, which was quite incredible. And so they won the first section and we came second. Played really well. Um, and it was, well, what are we going to do next year? And I said, well, let's hold off on that. We got other things to do. We had some concerts in the summer um, and then the U.S. Open in the fall. And I had a plan for the U.S. Open, and I thought if we pull this off and execute really well, our closer for that was a piece called Extreme Makeover by Johann de, which is an incredible piece of music, certainly a championship caliber piece. And we were doing the last half of it to close our entertainment show at the U.S. Open. And it went really well. And that to me was kind of the sign as to where the band was headed and where we were at, that we're a championship level band and we need to move up. Um, and so there were a few people in the area a little surprised. There were others that thought, okay, this is where you belong. And in the band, they're just they're bought in and they believe. And
Can I interrupt you for just a second? Just for anybody listening that's not familiar with the whole structure of NABBA, can you tell us how the different sections work and how all that's set up?
Yeah, so there's multiple sections at the North American Brass Band Championships, like other competitions around the world for brass band. And you have the championship level, which is the highest. Then you got the first section, the second section, third section. Then you have an open section and a youth championship and a youth first. So the youth ones are what they are for younger bands. The open section is sort of anybody can come in and choose what they're going to play for their program. There's some criteria for every section, time limits on your choice piece and all that. So every section gets assigned a set test piece that every band in that section has to play. and they get harder as you go up towards the championship. Um, so and then you pick a choice piece, and there's a time frame as to what that has to be in, and you try to pick something suitable for that section based off the level, and knowing your band. That's the usually the tricky part for a lot of music directors is picking a piece that will challenge and not overwhelm their band. Um, and also that suits your band. You know your band better than anybody else, and you got to pick according to the players you have, um, some of the soloists and things like that. So we did the first section in 22, came second, as I said before, and then but after going through again some growth in the band, the playing was getting better, continuing to get better, um, and winning the U.S. Open with that extreme makeover piece, as I said, it was kind of answered for me. I knew where the band was and where we needed to be. So we had told the band we're gonna be doing the championship section at NABBA in April of 23, and in January we started working on. Well, we did a reading of the test piece, which was Titan's Progress by Herman Pauluger. Um, we did a reading right before Christmas after our Christmas concerts, of that and the choice piece that we ended up using, which was On the Shoulders of Giants by Peter Graham. And just gave everyone an idea of how much work we really need to do, and before we took a break over Christmas and New Year's for a few weeks, so they, go home and practice, and we're strongly encouraged to come back with like the framework of the piece done, and then we could really dive in. It's quite a jump up, musically, technically, every aspect of playing you can think of.
Yeah,
And
excuse me.
yeah,
I was just saying, I watched the video from your NABBA performance, and yeah, that's quite a quite a lot of notes there.
yeah, for sure.
The I tell you, the one I was most impressed with was the marimba or xylophone player. That
Yeah,
guy was just all over that thing.
yeah, Caleb
Yeah.
Guns. He's an incredible percussionist. Yeah, he played extremely well, and he doesn't just play it. He really makes music on it. He phrases so well on any of the keyboards. Vibraphone, marimba. He's incredible on all the xylophone. He's a really really good player. So yeah, he did extremely well. But this process was a lot of fun, to put these pieces together, to dive into pieces that are so deep, to really sort of dive beneath the score and figure out what the composer's intent was, and then to identify, the different spots in the piece that I think are real crucial moments. Some of the transitions from one style to another. Um, there's a lot of different sort of dance sections in Titan's Progress. It's a
Oh,
monumental piece of music, but it starts real menacing, it ends real menacing, but everything in between is there's so much artistry and um, layering you can do in the score and what you really want to come out, and I had a lot of fun working on that piece with the band. It was an incredible journey, and obviously the end result. We were extremely pleased with being able to win the championship section. But we go into everything as we're always trying to do our very best. And as I said before, the next performance is always the most important thing we've ever done. And I encourage the group to approach it as if this was your last concert in the band, how would you want to remember that? Or if this was your last performance. And then the other side of it is there's always going to be somebody that comes to the concert and hears us for the first time. What kind of impression do we want to make? First impressions are very important in life. And the other thing was, and then there's somebody that's going to hear us for the last time. How do we want them to remember the Five Lake Silver Band? So that's always our approach. And then I always tell them, so contest or concert, it shouldn't matter. It's just another thing on the calendar. Um, because I've been involved with groups and seen it in the past with other groups where they sort of meander through the season and then try to flick a switch on for the competition. And it doesn't always work, because there's a lot of extra pressure that builds for people for that. The nerves are natural. It happens for everybody. But I just found that this approach we have really, really works well for our band. And just sort of to be really focused, but quite relaxed. We're quite relaxed in the warm up room before we go on stage for those things, um, which is what I think, is important. Uh, but it's an incredible group of people. Um, that's sort of the best part about it is as I said before, the culture we've created. It's a group that everybody truly loves and supports each other in the band, outside of the band, in our personal lives, and like we have rehearsal tonight. We had a week off in between NABBA, after NABBA, and tonight's our first rehearsal back. But even last week, getting messages from a lot of the guys and the girls in the group saying this doesn't feel right that we don't have rehearsal this week,
Mhm.
and I felt the same way. I was having withdrawal. I mean, we just love to be together. We love to make music together and strive to do it at the highest level, and that's always going to be our goal. We love to inspire people when we're out in a performance, and feel the audience move, and we could sense that at NABBA, the response we got at the end of both our pieces, especially Friday night on the test piece on Titan's Progress, when the crowd rose to their feet and they were cheering on the last chord before we even finished. It's an incredible, incredible feeling that to be able to stir something up in people, the emotions, and get that sort of response after all the work we put in was quite incredible. To be a part of that.
Okay.
Certainly a mountaintop experience for everyone in the band. It was really, really cool.
Can I just talk a little bit about the folks you have in your band? I was looking at your website. It looks like you've got about maybe half and half people that do music for a living and people that do it as a hobby.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, we've got a number of high school, middle school band directors in the band, which is great because they've got they're connected with the youth in the area, and with my job as the director of music for the Salvation Army, we do a lot of music programs at all the Salvation Army centers and corps and in and around Detroit and throughout the state. Um, and so we've got volunteers in the band that we have a good partnership with the Salvation Army and Five Lakes that volunteer and teach at different Salvation Army centers in and around Detroit. Free music lessons, brass lessons, and theory to kids each week through the Salvation Army. We have a number of other professionals in the band that have other jobs they do. Some computer specialists, librarian. We got all sorts of stuff in the band. Some that work at universities and other capacities other than music. Um, and so, yeah, and we have some students in the band as well. So juggling the schedules is always a tricky thing. I know every band deals with that, particularly with like the high school band directors that have marching bands.
tell me all about that. I'm very familiar with that situation.
It's such a big thing. And so like in the fall, we try really, really hard not to put anything on Fridays and Saturdays. You know, we really avoid that. We have some Sunday afternoon and evening concerts in the fall, just to help out our band director friends in the band. That are juggling marching band schedules and ours. So yeah, so the fall is usually we really don't do anything on Fridays and Saturdays for that. But it's great. It's a great mix of people. Music in general. But we're partial to brass banding, obviously. But it's such a wonderful thing, and it knocks down any sort of barriers. I mean, where else in life could you take somebody, a teenager, and sit them next to somebody in their 70s, you know, on a bus to a band event or something, and there's nothing awkward about it. I mean, we've got this thing in common. You've got men and women and boys and girls and whatever from all different ages. We can do this sort of thing together, um, and it's just comfortable. Music's the great equalizer in life, I think, and it's a wonderful escape for people from everyday sort of things in life that come up, the curveballs of life, and we obviously have had that in our group. We've had some personal tragedies over the last few years, people, losing loved ones. and the bond between the group just gets stronger and stronger. The support I've experienced myself. My mother passed away in the fall of 21, and
Sorry.
the support that I received, and my father's in the group as well, that we received from the folks in this band was absolutely incredible. And we've been able to do that for others in the band too that have lost parents or loved ones, and just other things in life, that come up when you have a hard time. We got a member that just had a part of his house burned down and garage like 2 weeks before NABBA, you know, and so it's something that everybody sort of feels it when somebody in the group goes through something, it's a special bond between the folks in this group, and I do believe it helps us play better because you love who you're playing with and you want to play well for each other, and that's sort of contagious in the room when we get together. So it's really fun.
Do y'all rehearse once a week, or do you do more than that as you get closer to the contest?
Yeah, it ramps up for sure when we get closer to contest, but it's usually Wednesday nights are our weekly rehearsal. We have a concert coming up June 4th, here in Royal Oak. Actually, we're playing at the Salvation Army there, and um, and then we'll break. We'll get together for a band dinner or barbecue, and then we'll break till mid-August. So there'll be a couple of months. I've got some my big music and arts camp and a couple of music conservatories in the summer. Others have other band camps they go to, but there's a handful from our band that volunteer on staff at my music camps for the Salvation Army too, which is really cool, and nice for them to get to know some of the kids in our programs that they're teaching throughout the year, and who knows, we may have some future members, in these music camps and conservatories. But it's fun to just build, with those programs in the summer, build up the next generation of players. Um, and then we get back in August, and we have a couple outdoor amphitheater concerts in different places, Grosse Pointe and Lake Orion, and then we're right back into it, from mid-August through to December. Then we get a little break, and then we're back. Then it starts the real contest grind for NABBA and Dublin and all that. So
Yeah,
U.S.
so
U.S. Open in November again. Yeah.
I guess once you've won the championship section, there's no going back.
Obviously, there's occasionally there's unforeseen things that bands deal with. We've seen it throughout history where you unfortunately something happens and you lose a few players, and there's always those kind of possibilities. But we feel, yeah, we're in a good place where with what we're building, and we'll strive to continue to be better and better. Yeah.
Okay, Christopher, I know you said your time was limited this morning, and I want to say thanks so much for taking time to be with me, and that's really fascinating uh, to learn about your band, and you guys have done so well. I wish you nothing but good luck in the future.
Well, thanks so much, Mike. Thanks for having me on, and really appreciate the opportunity. It's been great to chat, and yeah, thank you for the well wishes. As I said, we got rehearsal tonight, and really looking forward to getting back together and working towards our next concert.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching the video today. We're going to close out with a clip from the Five Lakes Silver Band Championship performance at NABBA. This is Titan's Progress. Thanks a lot.